Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are in the world. My name is Jessica, and this Kiwi wraps up her February TBR. So I want to start this video off by saying, oh my gosh, what a hectic month. I got a lot of reading done, but then I also have house projects, and I was looking after my beautiful niece, and I got crook, and there was lots of things that went on in February. So posting kind of went a wee bit on the wayside, but I'm back. I'm okay, and we're ready to read again. And so in February, starting with Pokemon. Okay, so we had the monthly Pokemon, which was to read a book with a vampire in it, and I read Let Me In by John. I'm gonna butcher this. John Ashvid. I I'll put his name there. John A. Lindqvist. I probably still butchered that, but that's fine. And so that was a book with a vampire in it, and it is a book that I had never heard of before until I looked through Goodreads, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't know that it was a movie, and I haven't actually seen the movie adaptation of it, but it was in the same veins as how Larson writes or wrote the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series. It was written very well. It had lots of layers in it. It had several different perspectives, and that was the one thing that really let it down for me was the different perspectives, just because I was listening to it on an audiobook, and it was quite hard to figure out whose story was being told at a given time. Um, but apart from that, the whole story was done really well, and I would like to buy this in print and read it in print and see if my rating improves. And so that was a 4-star book for me. And so we also had a themed Pokemon for um, February, and that was the Valentine's Pokemon. And so we had to read a certain number of books, which gave us a dollar or a point amount, and we had to get up to, I believe it was 25 points or dollars. And so each prompt was worth a different point amount. And so my prompts were reread a favorite for $5, and that one I read The Raging Quiet by Cheryl Jordan, and it is currently buried under some stuff at the moment, so I can't show you the book, but it is still a favorite. It is still 5 stars. It is heartwarming. It is heartbreaking. There are a few parts of it that are really hard to read. I think it is one of those books where it's not explicit, but there are some themes in it where you may want to look at trigger warnings for this book, including non-consensual sex. I guess you could say torture without spoiling it too much. Um, and just those kind of themes. And so, while some of those parts were really hard to read, it fits with the overall setting of the book. And I just thought this was done really well. So, my next one for that was someone you find attractive or an attractive cover on, like an attractive cover of the book. And so for that one, I chose If I Have to Be Haunted, which also doubled up as my chicken prompt. And so I don't go for angsty teens and broody teens myself, but I did find the cover of that book attractive. And for that one, I gave it 3 stars. It was okay. I mean, the concept of it was enjoyable, but it just wasn't the greatest thing that I've ever read. I think I had much higher expectations for it than what it delivered. It was very, very, very YA. And I think I'm getting to the age where YA just is not my area anymore. I just didn't find that the book had that much substance to it. Uh, it was easy to read though, which is really good. If you're looking for a book that's really easy to read, it'll work for that. And so that one was worth 5 points or $5, and right now I'm up to $10, which is great. Uh, and so the next one is a book you don't know what to expect. And I chose Serpent in the Wings of Night for that one because I didn't really know what to expect. I knew it was something to do with vampires and it was kind of Hunger Games-esque type situation. But apart from that, I didn't know what to expect from it and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 star. I'm not going to spoil it too much at the moment because I am going to be doing a vlog on this one, just telling you my thoughts about it. Um, but I thought it was really easy to read. The writing itself was quite easy, and I did see the similarities to the Hunger Games, at least to the movies. I haven't read the Hunger Games books yet, but from the movies, there were some points, especially in it's the trial after the Half Moon trial. Um, in that trial specifically, I saw a lot of similarities to Hunger Games in that one, and it was really enjoyable. So it was a good time, and I'm very excited to read the second book in the series for that one. And so for Don't Know What to Expect, that was also worth $5. Moving on to the $3. Um, there was Read a Romance Book, which was practically my whole TBR, so I had the pick of the litter there. And for that one, I just picked The Witch's Journey for that one by Tina Stetler, and that was absolute trash. It met my expectations and did not go any higher from there. The very definition of a trashy romance. Think, I don't know where you are in the world, but if you get Mills and Boone, or if you've ever read one of those, think of those books, but with really bad editing. And that's exactly what it was. She tried, bless her, she tried to make a plot out of her idea, but it just didn't land. And also, the smut scenes didn't land either. It's like she didn't really know where she wanted to go with it. And it just wasn't really thought out. I gave this one star. Yeah, I gave it 1 star. Um, and that's very nice. That's all it deserves. And so that was 3. So what are we up to now? 15, $18. Next one was to read a book with 50% red or pink on the cover. And I read Anonymous Sex, and that is an anthology of erotic short stories and edited by Hilary Jordan and Cheryl Lu Lian Tan. Very sorry if I butchered that name. Um, And this was so walking into the library getting this book, I felt very uncomfortable. But this was a spur of the moment. The prompts had just come out and I needed to get on top of it. Um, so it was a spur of a moment type thing. I remembered seeing it this year when I first went to the library, um, and thought it would be a good idea for a video. It has been videoed, um, but it was a very, very uncomfortable moment checking this out at the library. Um, but this was a lot better reading than I anticipated. I expected it just to be very smutty, like just a collection of smut scenes. And while there were quite a few of the ones that I was thinking of, I don't quite know how to articulate this properly, sorry. Um, the book itself was very literary in its writing, and all of these different authors, they took creative liberty in what they were writing, and you could see that creativity come out. Some of that creativity did not work properly, don't get me wrong. A few of them were really weird, and a few of them were a bit too abstract for my way of thinking, where I didn't quite understand where the story was going. Um, and while sex was clearly the main theme of this whole book, there were other themes as well that show up through this book. And so, again, I'm not going to spoil you too much on this one. Uh, you'll have to wait to see my vlog on this. I vlogged my experience reading it, but it was a good time. I gave it 4 stars. And so that was another $3. So that was 18, 19, 20, 21. We got four more dollars to get. The next one, which was $2, was read a favorite genre, and for that I used romance as that, because when it's done well, it can be done really well. And for that, I chose My Husband, which was also the volcanic prompt pick for February, and that was the book club for Midnight Society. Um, and I really enjoyed it. It was weird and it was a bit creepy, and there were kind of plot twists, and especially one right at the very end. Like, in order for you to understand the final plot twist, you need to read the epilogue. Again, I listened to this on an audiobook, and I think it was one I needed to read physically because I don't think I understood the story fully. Um, and it's not a book I feel like I can talk to you a lot about. However, it is a very good book, and I gave it 4 stars. So the final book that will bring me up to the $25 mark for my Valentine's Pokemon is to read a part of a series, and for that one I chose Passion by Lauren Kate, and that doubled up as my Buzzwordathon book, and I DNF'd this one. It was horrible. It was a waste of time. I did wait until after the 50% mark to DNF it. I got to, I think it was page 260. Yeah, I got to the end of page 260. So that's the end of the book there. I got probably 2/3 of the way through it. Um, and the only thing I really got out of that book was Luce going into one life and then Daniel chasing her, and then Luce going into another life, and then Daniel chasing her, and it just, they never catch up with each other. And so for me, I understand that as a character, Luce wants to know what's going on, or what went on previously in her lives, but it did not make a plot for me. It was just, she saw that life and then that life died, and then she saw another life and then that life died, and then she saw another life and then that life died. And then you'd go into Daniel's POV and he'd be chasing her, and then he'd have to go back and then he'd be chasing, and it was really boring. I think the best part of it was Luce's little, I don't know whether you call him a guardian angel, but he was a guardian of some sort named Bill. And he was like a gargoyle thing that just kind of went with her on a journey. And he kind of served as a bit of like comedic relief, and he was, yeah, he was probably the best part of that whole book. And so, yeah, that was a DNF. Um, and I don't think I will be continuing the series. I have heard that it does start getting really good, but I don't have the patience for it. And so, continuing on with the themed Pokemon, we had the Lunar Year, and for that we had prompts to lure out this one, and that was for the dumpling prompt, which was to eat something that was associated with the Lunar New Year or kind of Asian inspired. And for that, I actually went to the mall with my sister and my niece, and I got some Vietnamese summer rolls. And for the second prompt for that, that was to read a book with a red cover, and I used Anonymous Sex for that one. And I mean, that's a red cover. And so the third prompt for that one was to read a book with Asian representation in it, preferably own voice. And I'm not sure if the author of this was Asian herself. I think she was, but I chose If I Have to Be Haunted for that one. And so that was a relatively easy Pokemon to get, which I'm super happy about. So the other Pokemon prompt that I completed was Legendary Sword, and that was to read a retelling of something, and that's 6 of them within 6 months, I believe. And for that one, I chose Hooked by Emily McIntyre. And I did not want to enjoy this book as much as I did, but I really enjoyed this book. It was dark, it was smutty, and I was prepared for that. Um, but I quite liked the darkness of it. I loved Hook. I've always had a soft, well, not really soft spot, but I've always enjoyed reading more about villains than I have about heroes. And to have a book from the villain's perspective, and he he had his reasons, but you know, there were points where he was a real ass, and it was so fun. And so for that one, I gave it a 4 star, and I really enjoyed it. For A Tale of Two Trails, we saw in my January wrap up and also my February TBR that there were 2 of them that I had already read when it started, and that was Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare for Tweak, which was the Wordle prompt, and The Great Gatsby by F. Scott F. The Great Gatsby. And the only one I actually had to read to get these prompts was the music prompt, and I randomized my YouTube play or one of my YouTube playlists and got Paralyzer by Finger 11, and I chose Serpent and the Wings of Night for that, and I have obviously read that. So it was a good month for me, reading wise. I didn't really get to anything else, and it was quite tight. The timeline was quite tight. So it was not an easy month to read all of that, but I did it, and I'm actually quite proud of myself that I did it. I was planning on taking a bit of a break for March, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And if you want to see why, then click on the video that will take you to my March TBR. So please do check that out. Please leave me a like, leave me a subscribe, leave me a comment. Have you read any of the books that I have mentioned? Are you going to read any of the books that I've mentioned? And are there any that have stood out to you as being like, oh, maybe I want to read that, or I've never heard of that? And until next time, have a good day or night. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.